All right, so today we're diving into the FIRE movement. Yeah, it sounds kind of exciting, right? But what is it? Okay, FIRE actually stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. Basically, it's this lifestyle where people save like a lot of money, like aggressively, and invest it too. That way, they can stop working earlier than the traditional retirement age and just, live life on their own terms. Now, let's make this super simple. Imagine if, instead of spending $10 a month on streaming services like Netflix, you decided to, I don't know, put that money into savings or investments. Over time, it adds up. Big time. That's what the FIRE movement is all about. It's about cutting unnecessary expenses, saving as much as you can, and investing the rest. And there's not just one way to do FIRE. There are actually a few variations. Some people are ultra strict about it. They save almost everything and cut way, way back. Others live more in the middle and focus on a balanced approach. But at the heart of it, the goal is the same. Become financially independent so you have more freedom in life. Now, let me explain a few of the key ideas, just so we're all on the same page. Financial independence means you don't need to rely on a regular paycheck anymore because, you've saved and invested enough to support yourself. Early retirement, that's just stopping work earlier than most people do. Then there's net worth. That's all the money and assets you own, minus any debts. And diversification means spreading out your investments, so you're not putting all your eggs in one basket. When I was traveling a few years back, I was super budget conscious. Like, I skipped expensive tourist spots and chose affordable local foods. And honestly, prioritizing savings during that time was one of the best decisions I made. It gave me the flexibility to explore different cultures without, stressing over money the entire time. So now that we've talked about what FIRE is, let's get into some of its core ideas. At the heart of FIRE is understanding what you really need. Like, do I need this? Or do I just, want it? A simple question, but it makes a big difference when you're figuring out your budget. Here's a phrase to practice. Is it worth it? Imagine you're standing in a store holding, say, a fancy new coffee maker. Instead of just buying it, you ask yourself, is it worth it? It's all about being intentional with where your money goes, right? Now, let's talk about living on a budget. Following a budget doesn't mean giving up everything. It's more about understanding your needs versus your wants. For example, instead of eating out 4 or 5 times a week, you could try making meals at home, like 2 or 3 times. It's less expensive, and you'd be surprised at how much you save over time. Another great example, using community resources. A lot of people in the FIRE community talk about local libraries. Libraries aren't just for books, They have free events, classes, even movies sometimes, all for $0. That's maximizing value while keeping costs low. All right, let's use some budget-friendly verbs here. Track, plan, allocate. These are super useful if you're creating a budget. You track your expenses, meaning you figure out where your money is going. Then you plan how much you want to spend on things like food, housing, and, fun stuff. And allocate. That means setting aside a specific amount of money for each category. For example, you might allocate $50 a month for entertainment. See how these words fit into everyday money talk? Here's a fun activity to try. Grab a piece of paper or, open an app and start a simple budget. Write down your income, your expenses, and what's left over. Then think about how you could track, plan, and allocate that leftover. You can even add a savings goal, like saving for a new phone or, who knows, an emergency fund. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just give it a go. And you'll notice, once you start your budget, it kind of shifts how you think about money. You might even find yourself asking, do I need this? Is this worth it? More often. Okay, now let's look at how the FIRE movement can actually help you. First, let's talk about investments, starting with something called dividend stocks. Sounds fancy, doesn't it? But really, it just means owning shares in a company that pays you a bit of money regularly just for owning those shares. It's like, getting a little thank you payment every few months. And those payments, you can reinvest them to earn even more. Then there's compound interest. Honestly, this one's my favorite. Imagine you save a little money, and it earns interest over time. Then, the next year, you earn interest on both your original amount and the interest you already earned. It's like this snowball that just, keeps growing. So the earlier you start saving, the bigger that snowball gets. And what about emergency funds? Well, an emergency fund is just money set aside for unexpected expenses, like, your car breaking down or a surprise medical bill. It's kind of your financial safety net. Most experts suggest having 3 to 6 months worth of expenses saved up just in case. Life can get unpredictable sometimes, and this fund can stop it from ruining your budget. Let me share a quick story. There's this couple I read about, Sarah and Jim. They decided to follow FIRE, but they started small. First, they cut back. No more daily coffee runs, no unnecessary subscriptions. Then they started investing in low-cost index funds, which, by the way, are just these big baskets of stocks. After a few years, they even found an online FIRE community. That support motivated them to stick to their plan. And guess what? By their late 30s, they had enough saved and invested to quit their jobs. They didn't stop working, though. They started doing things they love, like photography and teaching yoga. FIRE gave them that freedom. Now think about your own life. What would you like to save for? A house, a dream trip, maybe early retirement? And what changes could help you get there? Maybe you'd say something like, I'd like to save for a vacation, or I'd invest in something long-term. Give it a try. Saying it out loud can make it feel more real. And it's not just about saving, it's about mindset too. Sarah and Jim didn't just change their habits, they changed how they thought about money. What would you change to reach your goals? All right, let's get real for a second. While the FIRE movement sounds awesome, and it is for a lot of people, it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. Some people look at it and think, whoa, that's not for me. And you know what? That's perfectly okay. One big thing to think about is how extreme some of those saving habits might feel. Like cutting out every little luxury, it's not easy. Imagine skipping all your favorite treats, like a coffee from your favorite cafe or, I don't know, even a small weekend getaway. That kind of strict budgeting isn't for everyone, and it can feel like really draining after a while. And let's talk about income. Some people might say, oh, just save more and invest more. But what if you're already working like 2 jobs to cover bills or support your family, right? The truth is, not everyone has wiggle room to save big chunks of money every month, and expecting them to do so can feel unfair. There's also the risk of burnout. Yeah, burnout. You save super aggressively, cut out fun stuff, and then, poof, you're exhausted. And for what? It's a real thing some people face when chasing FIRE too hard. Balance is super important here, but the movement doesn't always make that part clear. And then there's life, okay? Things happen. Unexpected medical expenses, family emergencies, or, just realizing you don't want a super minimalistic lifestyle forever. It's not about being perfect. It's about finding a plan that works for you. All right, so let's wrap this up. The FIRE movement, at its core, teaches us 3 really important things. Save wisely, invest smartly, and spend thoughtfully. It's about learning to focus on your future while making intentional choices today. But hey, no pressure, okay? It's not about becoming like a financial genius overnight. It's about starting small. Maybe by tracking your expenses or setting a tiny savings goal. Over time, those small steps can grow into something big. It takes time, effort, and a little bit of discipline. But it's doable. If you're curious to learn more about FIRE, why not start with basics like budgeting or look up investing tips? There are so many beginner-friendly resources out there. Libraries, podcasts, and even community groups can be great places to start. The key is to, take that first step. So, what could your version of financial independence look like? Maybe retiring early isn't your thing, but being able to save enough for a big dream or securing your future. That's a goal worth aiming for. And that's all for today, guys. Thanks for sticking with me on this journey into the FIRE movement. Take care, and I'll see you next time on English with Eve. Bye for now.